The debate over population continues in this country. New figures from the Institute of Public Affairs show that 2023 was the first year in history where Australia's permanent and long-term arrivals topped 1 million people in a single year. We know the net figure was just over 500,000, but 1 million people came in. Most arrivals end up in Sydney and Melbourne, of course, fueling the housing crisis. And that, of course, has triggered fights between state and local governments over planning rules.
What we can't have, and this has been the situation in New South Wales for over a decade, is everybody saying we're not prepared to take anything and we're not even prepared to negotiate around the table. Those days are over.
Frank Carbone, the Mayor of Fairfield in Western Sydney, isn't happy, saying that housing reforms will mean the death of the family car, forcing people out of cars and onto scooters. He joins me now. Good to talk to you again, Frank. You've been hot against these new planning rules from the outset. You said they're going to be the death of the backyard, now the death of the family car. Why?
Yeah, well, first of all, I can't quite understand what the Premier's talking about there. I mean, Fairfield, no one's taken in as many people as Fairfield. He pretends to say that councils aren't accepting people. I mean, Fairfield took 20,000 people in 2 years alone. We're actually the settlement city of Australia when it comes to migration. So it's really false about what he's actually saying. And the other point is all councils already have plans for housing. We have plenty of housing for people to actually come and live in and to develop and to knock over and to build more homes. We have up to 20,000 that can be built in my area alone, and across Western Sydney there will be hundreds of thousands. What the Premier is failing to tell people is that they've tripled migration with 500,000 people coming into the country. That means that everyone has to squeeze in because, quite simply, people can't afford to buy a new home, so everyone's competing for existing homes. So that's why you're seeing house prices going up at a time where you've got really high interest rates. You're actually seeing not the house prices going up, you're seeing building and construction going down, you're seeing people going broke in the building industry because no one can afford to buy a new home. But you want to know why, Chris? And I'll tell you something that the Premier doesn't talk about, and that is his brand new tax of $12,000 and the fact that we tax people's homes through the GST and taxes such as the Premier's tax and stamp duty, and we tax it out of existence. Now, if you want more homes, what I think we should do is actually take away the housing for first home buyers, take away the GST, take away the Premier's brand new tax, especially for first home buyers, and give them a chance. Let them build a new home so they can move out of existing homes and free that home for other people. Look, what the Premier has not stated and will not talk about is the fact that migration has tripled. It's not that we don't have... This isn't a supply problem, it's a demand problem driven by their policy.
There's no doubt about that, Frank, but he doesn't control the immigration rate, but there's no doubt the record immigration levels are fueling this. And I think you're right too, with all the government taxes and levies and also stamp duties, they're an impediment to people building housing. But your worry of this latest plan is that new units will only have to have a space for half a car, like 1 car space per 2 units. That surely is a recipe for disaster, because what we need is more car park spaces for people around the city, not less.
This is third world planning in the first world, and it's just terrible what they're actually proposing to do. What we're actually proposing to do is build 4 granny flats on steroids without any car parks and expect people to live in them. Out here in the western suburbs, where we've got large families for every single block of land, and yet, especially close to the shopping centres, when people in the western suburbs need their cars. They need their cars to go to work, they need their cars to go out with their family and their friends. Where are people going to charge their new electric vehicles, Chris, in the future? I mean, there's not even a parking spot where people can charge their vehicles. I mean, this is just terrible planning by the Premier. And the worst thing about it is accusing councils. There is plenty of housing. What it is, people cannot afford to build housing, and that's why you see builders going broke, because no one's building new homes, quite simply because the government is taxing new homes out of existence.
Great to talk to you, Frank. Really appreciate it.
And the government should not... Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Frank Carbone there, the Fairfield Mayor. We'll keep in touch with him. He's obviously got plenty more to say. We'll keep in touch with this issue too, the housing crisis and the population growth in this country. They go hand in glove.